Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back while we chat about what is happening in the stars above. And it is a crazy week. There is so much going on up there in the sky above us, stretched out over the course of the week for sure. But still, it adds a lot of disruption, excitement to the energy of the week. And on top of that, this week, we also have the Human Design New Year. And the new year for human design is different than, say, a calendar new year or even the astrological new year, in that it really takes on this idea of imagination and setting of intentions. It's like a very hyped up new moon, if you will. It really gets us thinking about, well, what could we create if we only could imagine it, right? It really moves us through that. And then, of course, we have other transits going on. Yesterday, the sun moved into the sign of Aquarius. So we see that this is the time of year anyway where we take on this forward looking energy. We start to think about the progression of things that are happening in the year. Where are we going? What do we want? How are we going to get there? And the energy of Aquarius supports our being able to see into the future and to create a more tolerant and a more inclusive type of world that we live in. And of course, today we are also celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, even though his birthday was actually on the 15th of January. We always seem to want to celebrate on a Monday when people can take the days off. We're always in for a holiday. um, However, it is an interesting time, as what he stood for today is something that we are still fighting our way through, right? This idea of equality, this idea of inclusivity, and leveling the playing field so that every person, no matter their color, no matter their race, has access to all of the same things, right? Has the same opportunities as every other person on the planet, literally, but here in the USA, especially, as that is where he was speaking from. Um, and then, of course, today we start the week off with a bang, as we have Mars in retrograde right now, squaring Eris, the goddess of discord. So there's this discordant energy. I felt it in my gut this morning. I woke up at 5 o'clock and I just was roiling inside. A lot of that has to do, of course, with the inauguration today and how that is going to impact the future of the land I love so much, and all of us that live here in the USA, but also around the world. uh, there's just this sort of energy of change, right? And it feels scary, frankly, right? I think there's this fear field that's going on with everyone right now, and periodically, we're going to have that as time goes forward. But it's interesting with Mars in retrograde, because Mars in retrograde again takes us backwards, right? There's the action, the dynamo that moves us forward typically, not only moving backwards, but in a sign where he gets no real traction to be able to do a whole lot. So he is, not as happy in the sign of Cancer, and that's where he is today. And he feels a little bit frustrated, right? There's frustration energy, as we're trying to get our traction and our feet beneath us to get moving forward, but things just don't seem to be going that way, right? It's kind of hard to see where we go. And so enter in Mars retrograde in Cancer in a square to the goddess Eris in the sign of Aries. Now, both Aries and Cancer, they are cardinal signs. Cardinal signs are initiating signs, right? They start the ball rolling, they start to move things forward, they set the tone. And here, with a tense aspect between Mars and Eris, we can see that there's got to be some more reimagining going on before we can actually get the traction to move forward. And this is potentially volatile energy. And it comes on a day, of course, where the potential for volatility is already high. So the retrograde motion of Mars actually adds an introspective layer to the day, maybe encouraging everyone to reevaluate how you want to respond to conflict or challenges that are happening around you. And, by reevaluating, what I'm really meaning is rather than reacting, to respond is something that we do intentionally, right? With forethought, with consideration. So the key theme of the day with Mars in this square to Eris is going to be about tension between action and identity. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It represents our identity, who we think we are. And of course, Mars in Cancer focuses more on the emotional and protective actions that we can take, while Eris kind of demands that we have bold self assertion in the mix. So the square kind of highlights the clash between personal security and the desire to stand up for oneself and for others, which is Eris, right? In underneath it all, she is for the underdog, right? That's what she's doing. She is championing the marginalized. She is championing the people that or the yes, people and issues that have been swept under the rug, right? That have been forgotten. So this could manifest as inner conflict for each of us, power struggles in the external world. No doubt we'll see that, particularly when emotions run high, right? Emotions running high are usually the cause of all conflict, right? Where we can't seem to be in a detachment with our emotions so that we can see things from a clearer perspective. And Mars retrograde, while encouraging us to reflect, also takes us backwards, right? It is a time to revisit old conflicts. And it's so clear out there, right? That everything that has, been going on in the world at large is about revisiting the unresolved tensions that have been out there in the world. And Eris stirs up discord. That's what she does. She reveals where we still may be holding on to unexpressed anger or frustration. And where that is, it gets dug up and it gets splashed out there in the world. But it gives us this opportunity. We have an opportunity to address the old wounds, to assert our needs out there in the world constructively, right? Constructively and not destructively, hopefully. But this is also a time where established dynamics are being challenged, right? So Eris disrupts the status quo. And while Mars retrograde may feel sort of stuck in the mud or restrained somewhat from being able to take the action that he wants so badly to take, there can be a whole lot of frustration when the two of these come together. They want to act, but they're unsure, and we want to act, but we're unsure of how to proceed. What is the best direction forward for everyone? So, what to expect, right? This again, it building up throughout the day. It'll be exact at 8:51 my time this morning, and that would be just before the swearing in, the inauguration this afternoon, noon, or is that noon? Yeah, because that is almost 9. That would be noon East Coast time almost. And expect emotionally charged situations, heightened sensitivity, but on all sides, right? And it may lead to conflict. There is always the possibility that, this level of discord, this level of emotional energy can lead to issues. Expect provocation. External events or people that challenge your sense of security may come to the surface, right? Pushing us to respond with courage and with authenticity. And it really isn't lost on me that as we are moving forward, we're all being asked to create community because in the future, in the very near future, like as in now, it will be the connections that we have to community that really sustain us, right? We can't look to the central government or the federal government in the case of the USA because it isn't going to be able to answer the call. So therefore, it's people power. And while that feels a little tense, it feels a little insecure to say, it is exactly where we're headed, right? The courage for us as a group, as a community, as a state, as a nation, a city, to be able to rise up, the people to rise up and take their power back. And in that is inner growth, right? That is another big deal with this, reflecting on how it is that we can all handle confrontation that is sure to erupt, it is sure to be there, and then making sure that it's not fueled by suppressed anger, right? We each have to deal with our own anger. So pause before reacting, right? Take a breath, walk around, blow out a few big breaths before you say or do anything that would be of a triggering nature. Identify the root cause of your angst or of your issue, whatever that might be with another person, with a group, within yourself. What is the root cause of that? Ask yourself what deeper emotional energy is coming up, wanting to be expressed. Maybe you've spent a good chunk of your life, tamping it down or swallowing it back so you wouldn't express it. So take the time to take a look at that and then channel all of your energy constructively, right? That is the best thing that we could do. Any kind of frustration or anger or upset being channeled appropriately rather than being splashed out there in a hurtful way to others. And this aspect is probably going to be with us for the entire week, right? It is today exact, but expect that it will be kind of in the background for the rest of this week. It, Mars is in retrograde. He's not moving very quickly at this point, and Eris doesn't move quickly at all, right? So we have this for a period of time. All right, let me say good morning to people who checked in here. Good morning to Tom. It's good to see you. Gayla. Tom says, how many in a host? Lots. We'll just say lots. Teddy Hickox, good morning. Christine Buckingham, good morning to you. Definitely people hit the like button, the thumbs up button, whichever platform you are listening on this morning. Good morning to J-Lo. Good morning to Christine Buckingham, who noted it was 11:11, obviously on the East Coast. And how are you all doing out there on the East Coast, in the eastern part of the country that seems to be frozen? I saw today, I should check in with Debbie and see if they got snow because it looks like northern Florida is in a snow zone. I can't believe that, but okay. Interesting weather, right? Kind of going with the interesting times that we are in. And, likely this week, because it's the human design new year, is actually full of promise and full of hope, and there's optimism. Even, while things might look pretty dramatic in the outer world or like they're going in the wrong direction in the outer world, there is a lot to be hopeful about. And especially as we, you, me, and all of us together, we are the co creators of this reality that we are in. So every year, the human design new year begins when the sun moves into the gate 41, which is on the root center, and it is called the gate of imagination. Sometimes it's called the gate of fantasy because nothing comes into reality unless we can first imagine it, right? So um, if you can conceive of something, then it is absolutely possible for it to become a reality. This is the time. I often spoke last week and the week before about this being the dream time, right? The time before we actually, you know, take first steps into this year. This is winter season in the Northern Hemisphere. It is the introspective time. It is the considering time of the year. And with the sun coming to the gate 41, it's a powerful time for setting intentions, right? For really, you know, looking into what is it that I want to create, right? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And the gate 41 is also, if we look at it through the gene keys, is the start codon in your DNA. And the start codon, if you know, go back to your days of science and your genetics, perhaps, or biology, and remember that the DNA codes for everything to do with your body, right? And the codes come to, they run like code in a software program, right? They repeat, they repeat, they repeat, and then they end, and then a start codon will start the process once more, whether it's the beginning, the start of a division of cells, right? Or the start of a healing process. The start codon is where it all begins. And the gate 41 represents the start codon in your DNA. And it's the spark then for all the creative processes that come from this point on. And actually, this is occurring on the 22nd, not today, but the 22nd. So on Wednesday. And it holds the potential for imagining, for dreaming, for initiating new possibilities. The gate reminds us that every great endeavor begins as a single idea, a seed, if you will, of possibility. So we're in the seeding time. And indeed, remember when Pia and Colin were with us on Friday, they talked about that week being the planting week, right? Where we were being invited to plant the seeds of what was to come. So the theme of this week coming up will be about emotional fuel for new beginnings, for supporting your vision, right? Seeing into the future. The high expression, if you will, is all about inspired creativity and the ability to dream and manifest potential, even despite what you might be seeing in the world at your or in your life at this moment, right? In this moment, it might look bleak. In this moment, it might look like you'll never get this product or program off the ground, but you can't allow the lower energy here of getting stuck in a daydream or becoming overwhelmed by the emotional pressure to stop you from doing what it is that you want to do, at least the dreaming part of all of this. I'm not saying today you need to go out and do something or on the 22nd, right? Because it's really still imagining time. It's a powerful time to tune in to what you desire to create in the year ahead. Notice I didn't say a resolution. It is not. It is an intention. Ask yourself, what vision am I ready to nurture into reality? Right? What vision am I ready to nurture into reality? Because when we plant the seed, we still have to nurture, right? We have to water the seed. We might have to prune some leaves as it sprouts. We might have to, you know, clear away some weeds that might grow around it. Um, it needs nurturing, right? So the ideas, the intentions, the things, the dreams that you can imagine will have to take their feet, right? They'll have to be able to grow over time, right? So there's no hurry. Like we don't have to start our lives on Wednesday with the Human Design New Year and start running and feel like we're behind the times if we haven't done that yet, because it's the imagining time, right? Get your journal, right? Get your journal out and, kind of write down what it is that you want, right? Or that you think you want to create this year. Now, that's the sun energy. The earth, alternatively, is at the gate 31. Now, the gate 31 is called the gate of the leader, and it is an energy that sits on the throat center. So it is manifesting energy, it is communicating energy. And it's about leadership through influence and clear communication. Hands down, any gate that sits on the throat center is going to be about communication. So it's an energy that emphasizes the importance of leading with integrity and aligning actions with collective well-being. We're in Aquarius energy, right? And true leadership in gate 31 is not about command and it is not about control, but about guiding others through your example, through your wisdom, through you as a role model, and through you living life on your terms, doing what it is that you love, holding passion and desire to move in a direction of love. Don't forget, we also have the nodes still sitting at the gate of unconditional love and the embodiment of unconditional love. Now, just because the gates are being triggered doesn't mean that what we see out there is all love and light, because it isn't. Yet, it is an invitation for all of us to create more and more of that kind of energy, the energy of unconditional love, right? The being the embodiment of the divine. So the gate of the leader asks each of us to step up. The earth grounds us, right? So this isn't about leadership like an elected position necessarily. This is about you in your own life being the leader of your own world, being the leader in your own, right. Um, how do you want to show up? How do you want to influence through clarity and alignment the collective good, right? What do you do? And it doesn't matter, how many people you get to influence. The fact that you can even influence one person creates a leadership potential here. And the highest expression in the gate 31 is about leadership that inspires trust and creates meaningful impact. In the low expression, it's manipulative and it's self-serving leadership and it lacks authenticity, right? The leadership, if you're not aligned appropriately with integrity, then it ends up showing up as a lack of authenticity. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope so, right? And with the earth grounding this energy, it's a reminder to embody leadership, especially leadership qualities in your day to day life. You don't have to go out and do anything different than accept that you would normally do, except to show up in as your authentic self, right? In loving energy, embodying the divine. And you might ask yourself the question, how can I lead with clarity and authenticity, right? So, this year's energetic invitation, if you will, is what is happening on the 22nd. And as we step into this new cycle, we get the pairing of these two gates to remind us that it all begins with imagination. If we can't imagine peace, we can't have peace. If we couldn't imagine how to fly, we never would have had airplanes, right? Or the ability to fly. It all begins in the imagination, right? So it's a very powerful year. It's the start codon that really starts to prime us to thinking about, well, how is it that I want to serve? The alignment asks us to consider our personal visions and how they contribute to the greater collective good. And then also, how is it that we contribute to the greater good? All right. It's really exciting. It's kind of interesting that it comes in this week, because we're so used to thinking of January 1st as the first of the year. But 3 weeks later, here we are, and we have this opportunity for a new beginning. But it's the seeding of the new beginning, y'all. It's not really getting out there and going to do something so much as it is getting prepared, right? And interestingly enough, the last gate before the human design new year that we are in today is the sun at the gate 60, which is a gate of constriction, limitation, right? It's a very Saturnian feel. It is asking us to, out of all that is possible, to bring in what it is that is correct for you. How do you marshal your forces? How do you gather your strength so that all of your energy is prepared for the seeding, for the imagining time? All right. That also requires us, the earth at this moment in the gate 56, which is a storyteller gate. So in order to distill what it is that your next steps will be, via your imagination as we get into the new year, you have to look at the stories you're telling yourself, about what's possible, about what's going on, about anything, right? What is the story that you are telling yourself? Is the story keeping you locked down in an old way of being, or is the story maybe transforming in a way that opens up, right, and allows things to bloom? So, we have today, we have tomorrow, where we can kind of do that inner work to kind of look at, where have we um, maybe lost connection to what's possible, and instead have been holding ourselves to an old story. And then the invitation is to bring that into focus, to bring some boundaries and container around the ideas so that when the imagination energy takes off, you're ready to go. Now, this is so uber important. This is so, 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 so important. Why? Because later in the month, next week, I'm going to give you the date, January 30th, Pluto moves to the gate 41. Now, on a collective level, there is a reimagining going on, right? And by the way, all of you have gate 41 in your human design. It might be open, it might be white and it looks like nothing is going on there, or it might be colored in and you have a planet sitting there already. You might have a couple of planets sitting there like I do. And yet, all of us are going to be invited into this energy of imagining, right? And then when Pluto moves here, all of you, for the foreseeable future, I could probably look ahead and tell you for how long, are going to be sitting in Pluto energy at the gate 41, which takes us, well, I'm already up to April. It's still there. I'm through May. It's still there. I'm through June. It's still there. July, is it the whole lumen year? All the way up until August 20th, y'all are in imagining energy. So what that means to me is, yes, for you individually this week, we'll take on that imagining seed planting energy, but as the collective goes, we are in a much longer period of time for a collective revisioning, reimagining. It actually kind of feels good to see that going on too. By that time, Pluto will have retrograded back to the 60 where he is now, and also where the sun is right now, and then we'll move forward again for us. So it's a really powerful time. It's going to wobble, it's going to suck some days, and it's going to be better other days. It's just the nature of this energy right now, right? Sometimes we have to see outside of us exactly what it is we don't want in order to realign ourselves with what we do want, right? That idea of contrast, right? Some of you at a soul level are contrast people, right? You work best when you can see outside of you what you don't want so that you can get clarity on the inner planes about what you do want. And others, of course, are similar people, right? They want to see something outside of themselves that's similar to what it is they want inside. So we all operate a little differently. That's kind of your operating system. And yet, all of us have this opportunity right now to take a grand look ahead and see where it is that we really want to go collectively, individually, right? As a people, right? What's the best thing for humanity going forward? So it is kind of exciting. And then there is the Sun conjunct Pluto energy that happens starting tomorrow. That energy is from, let's see, it doesn't give me a time here, but the 21st. And of course, the sun moves a degree a day. So it's today moving into that conjunction, tomorrow in the conjunction, the next day outside of that conjunction, starting to wane, right? The energy waxes, becomes exact, and then wanes. So we have this feel of it being moving, right? Moving energy. And when the sun is in Aquarius, of course, it's going to come into a conjunction with anything that is transiting Aquarius, and it's going to conjunct anything in your own natal chart that you have in Aquarius. I have my Jupiter sitting in Aquarius. You might have a lot of planets in Aquarius. You might have no planets in Aquarius. No matter what, though, tomorrow the sun conjuncts Pluto. And remember, we talk about this often. When the sun comes to a planet in a conjunction, it starts a new cycle of growth and evolution with that planet. And we'll see, later in the year, a sun sextile Pluto, trine Pluto, square Pluto, opposing Pluto, on and on through the year. But with the seeds are being planted tomorrow about what the sun and Pluto conjunction will be about for us for the year. And the first thing that comes to mind is transformation and empowerment. This alignment invites us to take a closer look at what needs to change in our lives. And that would be the relationship that we have to power, that the relationship that we have to control, the relationships that we have to hidden patterns of fear or desires, right? So they're coming up because the sun is the light, right? Shining this bright light on this underlying condition of the world. And it's a moment for you to reclaim your personal power, but also to initiate profound transformation in your own life. We're seeing it in the outer world, certainly, in the way that the things are happening in the world. And we're also breaking old cycles. Pluto, he's the lord of the underworld, and his influence is about releasing outdated structures, beliefs, behaviors that no longer serve our growth, right? The stale, the stagnant gets pushed out of the way when we have a Pluto cycle going on. And in Aquarius, this could mean manifesting in areas of community, in technology, in innovation, and in collective ideals, right? Do we have a collective vision, right? Which is related to our values. And all of that is, up for debate at this point in time and change at this point in time. There's also the potential for authenticity and leadership energy here because Pluto challenges us to move into our most authentic selves. And if we combine that with the sun's energy during this time, it really is an empowerment to leadership that is transformative, that changes things, and it's impactful. And you may feel called to stand out in a way that benefits the collective. So follow that, right? Remember, community becomes way more important as we move into the future. So if there is a cause or something that you can do to help in your community, this is the time that you may feel called or pulled to do such a thing, right? And don't underestimate the impact of revealing of hidden truths, either hidden patterns, secrets, suppressed emotions, hidden dynamics in your relationships. They're all going to surface at this point in time. And it might just be a little peek that you see, right? This is the opportunity for you to honestly look at and reflect on what is coming up, right? And addressing the shadows so that you can move on throughout the year as Pluto and the sun's relationship changes. So too do you change, right? That you grow and you also transform. So we can all expect that we're going to go through some kind of internal shifting, whether through deep introspection, like really deeply looking within, doing some journaling, shedding. Pluto's key word could also be shedding, right? Where we have this opportunity to shed all the old limitations, right? All the old stuff, it's time to shed it. Um, there's also external transformative things that will go on, changes in leadership, changes in societal structures, changes in group dynamics, particularly in Aquarian themes like innovation and social progress. Those are the biggies that Aquarius energy um, brings up. And there will be, no doubt, and a spotlight, a giant one, I'm not sure if we're good or not so good, on power dynamics, right? What is power and who is doing a grab for power and who is relinquishing power? And that means both for you as a person, but also us as a collective. And how does that influence our relationships and our systems and the society that we've built? So it's a very positive time, but it can also be fraught with difficulty as we, have to move through some of the old things that we need to let go of in order to move forward. So, you might ask yourself a few questions, reflection questions. Um, what structures or patterns in your life that you need to transform? What do I need to let go of? How do I align more fully with my authentic self? How can I step into a leadership role that empowers both yourself and others? And maybe what hidden truths or emotions are you ready to confront and release? You can't release them if you don't confront them, right? So they're there not to be hurtful or harmful, but for you to really say, okay, I'm done with this. I really am ready to let this go. So, practical ways to work with the sun conjunct Pluto would be first, I always think of journaling because, sometimes in the act of picking up a pen or even getting your fingers on a keyboard and starting to just allow the stream of consciousness to come through, you'll actually access what it is that is holding you back or what ideas are outdated or that things that you need to release. So journal about the areas in your life where you feel disempowered or where you feel stuck, where you can't seem to get, traction to move forward, and reflect on the steps that you can take to reclaim your power because you are not powerless. You are not in any way, shape, or form powerless. And embrace change. I think sometimes the hardest thing about the times that we're in is that we're afraid of change. We get stuck in the old patterns, we get stuck in old habits, and um, just get ready to let go. Be willing to just let it go and then be ready to take action in the new direction, right? Or in a new way. Collaborate with others. This is a collaboration time. We've definitely underestimated the amount of collaboration energy I think that is available for us to move through these times and to create solutions that are serving of the greater good. Especially in all of these Aquarian type areas, right? Technology, human resources, community projects, etc. So there you have that. I'm going to check over here, see if we have questions. Um, Christine, my oldest son, is starting his road trip to move back to Austin from New Jersey. I've never heard you say y'all before. I'm hoping it's a good sign he will travel safely, easily with good weather. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, yeah, I don't know why I did that, but I used to live in Texas. It's a throwback. J-Lo, OMG, does that mean now is the time for me to set the foundation for the next 248 years? Yes, indeed, right? Setting intentions for the next 248 years. You know, chances are you in your current form, you're not going to be here for 248 more years, right? We know that. But every person is contributing to what that next 248 years will look like, will be like, could the potential for that to be. So, yes, you are contributing to the next 248 years. And that's your radiance, you said. So, that's awesome. Good morning, Terry. Good morning, Catherine. It's good to have you with us. And going on, Joe Durchy, good morning, Kiki. Happy birthday to you. What a powerful day for you to have a birthday. I think that means for you, the sun conjunct Pluto is very close. Even if it's only a half a degree off, it is activated in your solar return. That makes this a very transformational year for you thematically throughout the year and not just today or for the next week, even. So be prepared, right? Get your roller skates on. You're going to need to be able to move with the flow. Okay. And walk. Good morning, Aquarius Sun, Leo rising, stellium in Pisces, including Moon and Venus. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Pluto in Leo. So, older generation, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean Pluto in Leo generation. Pluto moved into Virgo in 1957, I believe it is. So you have to be born just before that point, maybe. And there's a lot of power running through that chart of yours, Anne. The opposition between the sun and your Aquarius sun and your Leo rising really puts you in this path of transformation and creating a world based on self-expression, really bringing you out into the world. So she says she'll be 74 on the 8th. Happy birthday almost to you. And that's what you're here to do. So keep on doing it for as long as you can do that. All right. And that is so amazing that all of us can celebrate one another in these times, even though, sometimes the outer world is going to be chaotic and crazy and not so positive looking. But we as individuals can create the positivity by following our own authentic paths, really laying claim to your authority and doing what you love, bringing passion into everything that you do. And yes, Christine, I just got the message in my head that your son's trip will be a good one. So there's that. Now, this week seems to be filled with transits of planets. And a day like the 23rd, which is what, Thursday, is a day where we have 1, 2, 3 aspects happening collectively. And then the moon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things going on with the moon, which will transition between Scorpio and Sagittarius at that point in time. So we have a lot going on, right? It's almost like the week's energy is pumping up, crescendoing, if you will. And some of those aspects on the 23rd are a little tricky. The first one is Mars retrograde in Cancer in a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. Now, sextiles typically harmonize, right? The sextile aspect is a 60-degree relationship between, in this case, Mars retrograde and Uranus. But sometimes it creates opportunities for us in unexpected ways, productive ways even perhaps. But when you throw unexpected out there, people get a little shook up, right? So there's this possibility for surprises. So the theme for that particular aspect is going to be about adaptable energy. Mars retrograde in Cancer slows down impulsivity, thankfully, and encourages introspection and emotional alignment, kind of bringing all the emotional energies together. But Uranus, he sparks innovation and change, and he offers us maybe a new perspective on challenges that we've been dealing with. So there's a little bit of excitement underneath, even while there's been this persistent problem or issue that you've been dealing with. There can be emotional breakthroughs with this energy. Maybe surprising emotional clarity on something that's been, kind of holding you back in your life. And trust your gut instincts, right? This is really intuitive energy, and you might be navigating sudden opportunities or changes or challenges. But if you follow your gut instinct, i.e., your intuition, you'll be in the right path. So be open, right? Be open. That's the best thing that you can do. Don't try to shut down the process of change because you can't. This is like a freight train, right? That's moving through. We also have that day Mercury in Capricorn opposing Mars retrograde in Cancer, right? So so we had Mars and Uranus that were in, a sort of, eh, I would say they're in an harmonizing aspect, even though it's Mars. And yet here we have Mercury in Capricorn opposing that Mars retrograde. And it creates tension between the practical communication that we have with one another, but also the emotionally driven actions that people may be taking, the reactionary energies. So we may have communication challenges that same day, and they may feel heated. We might feel emotionally charged, especially if old frustrations resurface. We'll have to balance logic and emotion. Mercury in Capricorn is logical. He sees the facts, he sees the figures, he sees the practical, the pragmatic. He wants to speak to the practical and the pragmatic. But Mars retrograde in Cancer lights a fuse over there on the emotional energy. So this can create a push and pull dynamic between, the logical part of ourselves and the emotional part of ourselves. So we have to find the middle ground. That's what an opposition is all about. Retrograde Mars here suggests perhaps that we are revisiting past issues, maybe reevaluating the position or stance that we have been taking, and or bringing something to closure, which can also feel sometimes a little daunting. So be patient with people on Thursday. All week, just all week, be patient with yourself, but also with others. Avoid conversations of an emotional nature unless you can, go to the Mercury in Capricorn and do that with a very um equal, what's that word? Equanimous, equanimity kind of feel to it where you're detached from the emotion, right? Reflect on how you are feeling emotionally before you bring up something to somebody that is going to create tension, right? Be very circumspect this week. And then, as well, that same day, Mercury again in Capricorn in a trine with Uranus and Taurus. So we have some synergy going on between these planets. And there can also be some brilliant ideas like aha moments, epiphanies running, through all of us. That helps us to have clearer communication. Um, there is the practical married to the innovative this week that, can take us into the future. Both of all of these aspects happening in the human design new year, seeds planted for potential as we move forward. The combined energy then of the 23rd is the interplay between Mars and Mercury and Uranus, the three of these planets that we can use to be mindful of emotionally reactive communication or reactive to how we're being reactive and creating conflict. There's a huge opportunity here, though, to leverage innovative ideas and emotional clarity to find a balanced creative solution to problems that you may be experiencing. We have to search for it though. We have to we have to reach for it, right? We have to go for it. So finally in the week, we have Venus in a trine to Mars, and that doesn't come until Saturday, I believe it is. Yeah, Saturday. And yet, of course, activated, sooner rather than later. And Venus is in Pisces. She is exalted there. She loves Pisces energy. Pisces energy is empathetic, it's compassionate, it's loving, it's spiritual, right? It sees from a much higher perch. And she will be in a trine to Mars, who is retrograde, as we've already said, in Cancer. And this is a harmonious aspect between the two. It's very creative energy. And when Mars and Venus meet, there's often some kind of flowing energy between the two of them. And a trine is a place of ease and flow. And it might bring us some ability to be more emotionally intimate with people, really sharing from the heart and being compassionate, at the same time being creative. And together they foster, this energy of building a safer space for deeper emotional connection with one another and having meaningful conversations, meaningful, not heated, right, but meaningful. And yet, you know, sometimes those kinds of conversations can still get heated. And yet there is this potential for healing and reconnection at the same time. So the slower energy of Mars in retrograde invites us to reflect deeper before we act. Um, this trine then likely offers us the opportunity to mend old wounds, or reconnect with loved ones in a heartfelt way. Anybody that you've been separated from. And it's so interesting because yesterday, last evening actually, I reconnected with a sister that I hadn't talked to in a while, not because of anything other than life. And such drama had occurred in her life. I was shocked. I was just shocked at how much I could have been helping her through all of that trial and time where she really needed connection. And it just reminded me that, we're here to have heartfelt connections with one another and help as much as we can. This transit with Venus and Mars will remind us about that, right? And also establish perhaps a creative flow of energy for the projects that you're engaged with, might increase your artistic ability, anything where that would highlight beauty and imagination, while Mars would provide us with the emotional support and drive to bring our visions to life. What's not to like about this Venus trine Mars? So, all in all, we have this really good energy that's happening. At the same time, we have some tricky energies that are happening. But that's how it always is with astrology, right? It's how we tend to grow. We have to sometimes have some kind of tension or some kind of difficulty that pushes us forward, that pushes us to look for new solutions, that pushes us to remember what our values are, to remember to really reconnect even with, what is your heart, where your heart is. This week seems to be that kind of week. And while maybe difficult at times, can also bring some real beautiful energy. And now to end the week on Sunday, we have two powerful sextiles happening. One at the same, kind of at the same time. One is Mercury in a sextile to Neptune. So now we're bringing this logical mind into the more unconditionally loving one, right? We're joining the two, the empathy, the compassion with the logic and the facts and the figures kind of thing, which, on one hand heightens our intuition and gives us access to, higher realms. But at the same time, Mercury and Capricorn, very grounded. So the sextile works really well to bring us, like ideas and things that are possible and grounding them into a way for us to move forward. And there is the potential for compassionate communication, being more caring, loving unconditionally with one another. And at that same time, because I said there were two sextiles, Venus in Pisces will sextile Uranus and Taurus. So they're all, interacting here. And there's a spark of excitement that can run through our relationships with this kind of transit. It also through your creative endeavors, like sparking the imagination or, giving us an access to like this revelation kind of energy. And it's innovative clarity, perhaps, it's innovative creativity, it's freedom energy in our love relationships. It's a desire for authenticity, for being real with one another. So the combined energy of Sunday's transits are really going to take us into using our imagination in very creative and innovative ways. It's a day, it's a week to dream big, to communicate with clarity and compassion when you're, talking with others, to listen as much as you are speaking, and to try something outside of your comfort zone. Step out, right? Step away from the old and, ground yourself in the new, in the imaginative, right? Don't get caught up in the old thinking models, right? Be willing to bring things forward. All right. Let's go back here. Jerry, good morning to you. She says, I'm a Pisces sun, Scorpio moon, Aquarius rising. Interesting. Lynn, hello. Could you speak a bit on nodal return, please? I'm having this in my chart with North Node in Pisces 6th and South Node Virgo with Venus and Pluto in the 12th. Looking back to 12 years ago was a rough patch. You're nervous. Well, first of all, the nodal return is an 18 and a half year cycle, not 12. Jupiter's 12, um, but we're talking a North Node return. So if you think of the North Node, Lynn, as your destiny, right? Where it is that you're taking all of your gifts and your talents and your experiences and the direction you're moving them in, right? Your North Node, you say, is in Pisces. So you're moving your Piscean toward your Piscean North Node, which would be a very spiritual placement, a very intuitive, healing energy, right? Compassionate, loving, fewer boundaries in that energy, right? You're coming from the Virgo, um, earthly, practical energy, and you're moving it toward the Piscean edge. But it's in your sixth house, which is a house that is naturally ruled by Virgo. So it seems to me that your destiny is about blending the energy of spirituality and being, inspirited, intuitive, compassionate, but in your work, right? The sixth house would represent the work you do. So in healing others is your work, or in working through counseling people, because you've also got the 12th house, you said, Venus and Pluto. So whether your work is, with the mental side of things or the physical side of life or even emotional or psychic, that's the work you're here to do. Now, every 18 and a half years, the nodes come back to where they were when you were born, and it triggers the next round of growth, right? The next opportunities for you to really be living your destiny, to be living, your authentic truth. So if you're having a North Node return, this is your time, right? This is the time to up level. It's like being in a video game, right? And at the end of that level, you meet the boss and you have to beat the boss in order to go on to the next level. Well, that's what you've been through. And now you're up leveling, right? You're going to the next level. So it's not negative at all. It's very positive. It can be, sometimes it's greeted with the energy of, oh, you know, I'm not in the right place. I'm not doing the right things. I have, failed miserably. Sometimes we have that moment before the North Node comes back to the natal North Node, where we have an opportunity to look backwards and see what we've connected to, how we've, grown, and then set the new course, right? So setting the new course. And likely there will be some form of transformation in your life at this time, Lynn, because the opposing planets of Venus and Pluto are going to guarantee that you're moving in a way that is bringing the hidden out, bringing the hidden to life. So it could be an interesting time for you. I would be like ready for it. Asa, good morning to you. And she said she's got a nodal return too. North Node Pisces, seventh house. So this is about relationships and then agreements and contracts that you've made. And how do they support you or not support you? And is it time to let some things go? Is it time to reevaluate how relationships have played a role in your life? Just by definition, then your South Node is in the first house. Um, so reevaluating yourself. What's going on with me? Am I holding on to something old and something I can release, right? The South Node says, there's a new you in the marketplace here. That new you is in the seventh house, which is creating partnerships and relationships that are very positive and uplifting and move you in the right direction. Your husband died 12 years ago this coming September. It wasn't a good time. I'm sure, and all of our hearts can go out for somebody that has experienced that level of grief. Um, but that was 12 years ago, right? 12 years ago. So what have you done with relationships as you move forward? What new contracts or agreements are you um, upholding now in your life, right? And I don't necessarily mean the written contracts, although that could be a part of it, but think of all the things that you've agreed to that, maybe aren't true anymore, that you can release, that you can move forward to. Mistel, good morning. North Node Pisces in the 12th. Wow. So that is a highly spiritual placement for the North Node. It is in a house that it would be very comfortable in, but the 12th house can sometimes be hidden, right? There's this sort of introspection about the 12th house. And sometimes we're, playing like hide and seek. Like I want to be seen, but I don't want to be seen. Right? I want to be seen, I don't want to be seen. And it can be this time in your life, Estelle, of maybe coming out more and more, right? Being seen, kind of looking at the fears, the blocks, the restrictions that you've put on yourself typically that you can let go of in order to be more spiritually engaged. And sometimes I think of the North Node in the 12th house as someone who has either in this lifetime come through a very constricted religious training or growing up through, a family that held some very religious training and how is like your path would be about releasing the dogma, the constrictions of those things and allowing your spirituality to shine through, right? To being more inspirited and less strictured by dogma. And of course, that is a process that you go through in this life. Just keep remembering love is the only thing that's real here, right? Spirit is about unconditional love. There's compassion, there's empathy, but you've got to also bring that to yourself, right? You have to be able to shine it on for you. All right. Well, that was fun. I love doing that kind of impromptu kind of reading. So thank you, all of you that brought that information up. And Anne says, repeating old patterns and lessons learned. Sometimes that is a part of that experience, right? Because in order to go forward, you have to evaluate where you've been. You have to see what's worked and what doesn't work. What do you want to take forward and what do you want to release? So this is a process that you're going through at this time. So, all right, let's draw a card before I go this morning. And, ooh, okay, let's do soul coaching. This is one of my newer decks from Denise Lynn. And let's see, I think we could all use some soul coaching for the week ahead. And I love this deck. They're really colorful. They have great messages on them. And it is a 52 card oracle deck. Woo, here we go. Strength. This reminds me of the Game of Thrones, Daenerys on her dragon. Strength, right? Card 46, which is a 10. So we're elevating. We're elevating a new beginning. We're elevating our independence. Let's see here. Strength card 46. And it says, there's a wellspring of power within you. Call upon it. Also, be willing to lend your strength to others. What your soul wants you to know. The greatest strength is silent and deep. It doesn't need a show of force. It just is. Inner power is found through contemplation, reflection, and meditation. Sometimes it comes from times of growth and change. Other times it springs from surviving and conquering painful situations. And your affirmation is, I have deep inner strength and glorious vitality. I love that. I have deep inner strength and glorious vitality. So that's your soul's guidance for the week ahead. Strength. All right. That is it for me today. I will see you all on Friday. And on Friday, I will be preparing you for what is a very active end to the month of January. So it might be a good idea to have both your human design chart and your personal astrology chart with you so you can follow along. And if you are someone who does not have an astrology chart or has no human design chart, reach out to me and ask for that. I'm going to put my email address here and I will get that to you so that you can follow along with us on Friday. All right, guys, take care. Much love. Bye for now.